Okay, you guys got your notes? Good. So, you all know who I am. And
Introduce
What's your
yourself.
name again?
Yeah. It's a tough
Who
last
were you?
name, I know. Nobody could get it right in college, that's for sure. So, so tonight, I have an agenda, and it's to move your thinking from this crisis-centered way that we think in our society to a way of thinking where we really look at health and what actually causes health. Now, we're going to do that in terms of talking about female hormone dysfunction, which I think there's a lot of dysfunctional thinking about that in our culture. So let me ask you a question, and I'll just start out with this. Do you think that a 14-year-old that's having problems with her hormones, that it's a birth control pill deficiency?
No.
Okay, so it's not. She wasn't born with a birth control pill deficiency. Yeah, I don't think it is either. So we want to find out, well, what causes this? Because it's normal for young women to have problems with their cycles, but is it a natural thing? Not necessarily. Normal and natural aren't necessarily the same thing. I mean, it's in our culture, it's pretty normal for lots of people to have heart attacks, but is that a natural thing that's supposed to happen to a lot of people? Not really. Okay, so we're going to look at hormones in that regard today also. Come on, this thing's gotta work here.
I didn't know you were coming, or I'd have brought my pants.
Okay.
Why don't you go by your house and I'll meet there?
Okay, so
She's too long, trip factor long.
does the body have the capacity to be well?
Yes.
Okay, it does. Okay. Does the body have the capacity to heal if it isn't well?
Yes.
Okay. So what causes sickness in the body? What are some of the things that cause the body to be sick? And what are some of the things that causes health?
Outside influence.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Outside influence
Like,
of some sort. Your diet,
Yeah.
bacteria floating around.
so diet, toxicity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Anything else?
Would it be just anything that the body is unable to adapt to with the stresses put upon it?
Yeah, or it adapts in
Imbalance.
a way that causes it to malfunction. Because malfunction is actually an adaptation of the body. So what causes us to be healthy? What causes health? What is it?
Nutrition, exercise.
Yeah. And so if you were to describe to somebody, like, what is health? How would you describe it? How would you do a very short, like maybe 1 or 2 sentence description of what health is?
Normal function of the
Spit it out. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Normal, non-affected function of the body. I don't know.
Yeah,
the correct
normal
words.
when the systems of your body are working like they're supposed to. It's pretty simple. Okay. So so we're going to look through a different lens tonight. The lens that our culture looks through is through the lens of pharmaceuticals primarily, and I'm not against all pharmaceuticals. So I'll tell you that I don't think they're all bad, but I want to look through the lens of how can we produce health in people. In other words, I'm not looking through the lens of changing symptoms or just suppressing symptoms, but how can we make a body actually healthier? So if you look at we call this a triangle of health. You have 3 different areas. You have structural neurological, which is chiropractic. You have spiritual, emotional, and you have biochemical. If you can get these 3 things in balance, you're doing pretty well, okay? However, sickness occurs when there's an imbalance. And when there's an imbalance, then you have the entire triangle is skewed. And can you, for example, can you get a biochemical imbalance from a spiritual, emotional problem?
Absolutely.
Sure you can. Yeah. And can you get an emotional problem from a structural or neurological
Absolutely.
imbalance? Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at the 7 systems of the body. And there's actually a class I do called the 7 systems class. But we're going to be talking about primarily the communication system in this talk. Okay? There's 7 systems, and we've done the structural system a lot. We're going to do the communication system. It consists of 3 things: our nervous system, our neurotransmitters, and our hormones. So we know this. We know our nervous system controls and coordinates all body functions. This is what chiropractic does right here. It handles this part of the communication system. And all of our hormonal organs are affected by communication system, by the nervous system. So when I adjust somebody, I'm actually affecting their hormonals or neurotransmitters. All the systems of the body are being affected. Maybe some not, maybe to some lesser degree than others, but they are being affected. So let's start out with, if we're going to talk about hormones, let's start with the hypothalamus and the pituitary. They're the glands in the brain that stimulate hormone production. And if you look at here, the pituitary gland actually sits right up in the back of the throat, right above it. And it sits in an area, and you see the hypothalamus is right here, acts like a funnel into the pituitary gland. So what is the hypothalamus funneling into the pituitary? Anybody have any ideas? That's kind of a hard question. Really good question, but it's a hard question. Because the pituitary gland, well, we'll see that in a minute, but the hypothalamus is like a funnel. So what does it funnel in the pituitary? Anybody? Emotions. One of the main things it funnels are emotions. So our pituitary gland then responds to the emotions, and as we're going to see, the hypothalamus is a connector between the endocrine system and the nervous system. So here's some of the things it does. It has a part in body temperature, thirst, appetite, and weight control, emotions for sure, sleep cycles, sex drive, childbirth, blood pressure, heart rate, all kinds of things are affected by the hypothalamus. And a lot of these things here really can be affected by emotions. So our emotional brain funnels our emotions in through the hypothalamus into the pituitary, and it affects all of these things. So we're going to be talking a lot about what I call the HPO axis tonight. Hypothalamic, pituitary, ovarian axis. So your pituitary gland secretes hormones which causes your ovaries to ovulate and causes the egg in the ovary to what's the word I'm looking for? It grows it and it matures it and then it releases it. And it also has an effect on the uterus. The HPO, hypothalamic, pituitary, ovarian axis. Now, the two hormones which can cause imbalances in all the other hormones in the body. These are the 800-pound gorillas in the body in terms of hormone, is insulin and cortisol. Okay? If those are out of balance, I don't care what else you do, you cannot get your hormones right. Even if you're a male, it's the same way. When I do my male hormone class, there's the same 2 hormones that screw up male hormones, testosterone. So insulin, fat storage hormone, blood sugar regulation secreted from the pancreas. Cortisol, secreted from the adrenal glands, which sits on top of the kidneys. So also helps in blood sugar regulation. Here's the other hormones. Thyroid hormones, which are not steroid hormones, and sex hormones, which are are made out of cholesterol. Okay, did you guys know that? All your sex hormones are made out of cholesterol? Every one of them. Okay, so if you lower your cholesterol too much, what can happen?
Low sex drive.
You can't make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, cortisol. You can't make it. Okay? So there's a lot of other things in the body that need cholesterol too, but your sex hormones are made out of cholesterol. The thyroid hormones aren't, but the sex hormones are. So sex hormones are made in these areas of the body. Obviously the ovaries, the adrenal glands, fat cells. The adrenal glands are actually your backup for your ovaries. So when you reach menopause, and I talk about this a lot in my menopause class, if your adrenal glands produce the same hormones that your ovaries produce. So when your ovarian production of hormone goes down, your adrenals are supposed to kick in and make up for that, and then kind of lower the production gradually. But what happens if the adrenal glands are shot because you've been under stress for years and years and years? They can't do it.
I was just going to ask, does that affect?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why there's some menopausal women who just hit the wall during menopause because their adrenal glands are shot. They're not making hormones like they should. And so it's very important that the adrenal glands are healthy. They're kept healthy as we age. Okay, hormone imbalance is deeply connected to the following 6 things. Food we eat, exercise, amount of weight that you carry, amount of stress we have, the flow of nerve supply to the reproductive organs, and the toxicity we ingest. Those 6 things make all the difference in the world when it comes to hormonal function. So, balanced hormones allow you can sleep, you have energy, you have a sex drive, you have a strong immune system, you have a normal functioning digestive system. If your hormones are out of balance, these things don't work very well. So, beginnings of hormone function usually start, I think they start in pre-adolescence, actually. What would be a cause of pre-adolescent hormone dysfunction? Somebody who's maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, that's going into puberty, that's going to have problems. What would be the cause of that? Anybody?
I was catching up on this and I missed the first part of the question. I apologize.
Oh, okay. I know there's too many blanks,
I'm sorry.
and I didn't have time to fill them all in.
No, you're
today.
fine. I was.
So,
I didn't hear the question.
if a young girl, let's say she's 10, going into puberty, what would be a cause that you could predict that she's probably going to have problems, hormonal issues when she's in her teens? What would be something that you could observe that might indicate that?
Our household diet.
Very good answer. Yeah. What is she eating? Okay. So, what do you think might be a problem in a diet in this country with your average 10-year-old?
Fast food.
Fast food. Yeah. So if your hormones,
Processed food.
yeah, processed food. If your hormones are made from fat, okay, which they are, and you're eating the wrong kind of fat, yeah, that's bad, okay? So the way they're eating is a really good indicator of what kind of issues they may have when they're little. There's a woman, I read this quite a while ago. There's a woman who talked about when she grew up, her dad did not let any of her siblings have sugar of any kind. They didn't eat desserts, they didn't have sugar in the house, they didn't eat it. When they went to birthday parties and there was cake and ice cream, they'd bring their own raisins and nuts, and they'd eat that. And I know it sounds terribly boring, but she said, you know, she said, I got married. I was older when I got married. And she says, the first time I tried to get pregnant, boom, there it was. And she says, I credit the way that my dad had us eat when we were growing up to that fact. She had no problem, and she was older when she got pregnant. So diet has a huge effect on it. So let's look at insulin. Insulin is a fat storage hormone. It goes up every time we eat. Chronically high levels of insulin cause cells to be loaded with fat, and it locks fat into cells. Fat cells produce their own estrogen, which then elevates estrogen, causing estrogen dominance and an estrogen-progesterone imbalance. That's how insulin affects hormones. So, symptoms of elevated insulin: chronic weight gain, inability to lose weight regardless of diet. You tend to burn fewer calories. Fatigue is one of them. Constant hunger or hunger for bad food. So insulin is kind of like a fat fertilizer. I also use insulin as a proxy for a person's chances of getting cancer, because high levels of insulin you see that in a lot of cancer patients. So somebody's at high insulin, we want to get that down. We want to get it down because their chances of getting cancer goes down, but they're going to be a lot healthier. They're going to have a lot better weight management if we get insulin down. So what are some of the things that you can think of that might lower insulin? Insulin's probably one of my all-time favorite blood tests, if you can't tell by now. I think it just reveals so much about a person's health. So what are some of the things that will get insulin down?
Removing all unnatural sugar.
Yeah, that would be good. That's a good start. So getting sugar out of your diet. Or really, really restricting it at least. Okay? Yeah, that's good. What else?
Carbohydrates.
Yeah, refined carbs. Yeah. So not eating refined carbs.
Fasting.
Fasting, really good way to get insulin, to manage insulin. Really good. Anything else?
Exercise.
Exercise, yeah. Especially high intensity exercise and weightlifting, which are both really good for helping to manage insulin. So elevated insulin contributes to all of our serious chronic diseases: heart disease, hypertension, stroke, cancer, type 2 diabetes. Highest insulin levels I've ever seen in any patient that I've tested was 77. It should be less than 5. And this individual had stage 4 cancer, and he ended up dying of cancer. But 77, that's really, really high. Okay, that's a guy with high insulin levels. High insulin, so you get estrogen dominance with high insulin. So here's a chart that shows estrogen dominant symptoms. And I mean, there's all kinds of problems on here: accelerated aging, depression, foggy thinking, infertility, polycystic ovaries is definitely a sign of that. Headaches, period issues, bloating. So when your cells are making too much estrogen and you don't have enough progesterone to balance that out, you get estrogen dominance, and that causes just a whole lot of problems. So high estrogen thickens bile, leading to gallbladder dysfunction and gallbladder removal. That's another side effect of high insulin levels. And how many people do you know that have their gallbladder taken out? And there's a lot of them out there. So here's the things we talked about. Lowering insulin, we already talked about this. There's specific supplements that help lower insulin, like Gymnema, really good supplement for lowering insulin. really helps resensitize your cells to insulin. Another thing about gymnema is it actually can help heal the beta cells of the pancreas, which are the cells that are damaged in type 1 diabetes, and they quit making insulin.
What's it called?
Gymnema.
How do you spell it?
Gymnema.
Is this something you carry?
Oh yeah. I carry it,
Okay.
use it all the time. So how does cortisol imbalance our health? So when does cortisol elevate?
Stress.
Stress. Anytime we're under stress. Okay. So it's made in the adrenal glands. It's a stress hormone. So cortisol is made from cholesterol. It's a steroid hormone. And it's made from cholesterol just like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, pregnenolone, all those steroid hormones. So it goes up when we're under stress. And what is one of the things that cortisol does in the body that's good? It does a lot of good things.
It decreases inflammation.
Yeah, it decreases inflammation. Okay. Now, that's a really good thing, but you don't want cortisol high all the time. Cortisol also mobilizes blood sugar. It creates this thing called gluconeogenesis, which it makes sugar out of protein, and it deposits around our waist, which is where you generally don't want it. So you want cortisol high all the time. And people under stress have high cortisol levels continually. So what kind of stress responses will interfere with your hormone imbalance? Well, emotional stress. I know none of you have any of that, but there are some people out there that do. Okay. Dietary stress and pain.
He's being facetious.
But
I said you're being facetious.
yeah, I am. Pain, pain beats the heck out of your adrenal glands. People are pain, their cortisol is high all the time. So, and constant inflammation in the body, so low-grade inflammation is very stressful. So, here's some stresses that can impact your life, and and the fact is all of us have some of this. I don't know of anybody.
So you can't live and not have.
Yeah, all of us have some of that. The only person I know that ever lived that didn't have this, probably Jesus. He may have been the only one, but the rest of us, we're kind of stuck with some of that.
He had a right to be stressed.
What?
He had a right to be stressed.
Yeah, he did. And he walked through a lot of the same stuff we walked through. I don't think he ate a highly processed diet.
No, probably not.
No. But he had a right to, that's right. So, chronic stress, elevated cortisol, low progesterone, which can lead to endometriosis. Estrogen, progesterone imbalance. So how do we heal our adrenal glands? Well, there's lots of ways. Simplifying our lives. I'm a big fan of number 3, praying and spending time with God. That's really important to me. Eating a whole food diet, really, really important. If you could just do like 3 and 4, you'd be doing really well. Getting enough rest. Is lack of sleep stressful?
Mm-hmm.
Lack of sleep will actually skyrocket your insulin. So if you're not sleeping, or you're trying to burn the candle on both ends, really messes with insulin. Here are some of the herbs that we use for healing adrenals. Ashwagandha, ginseng, rhodiola, licorice are all very, another one is Romania, which is really good. These are things I use in my office. And chiropractic care, really powerful for helping the adrenals. So, common exposures that act like estrogen in the bottle, chemicals. This is a real issue in our culture. So bovine growth hormone, which they give to cattle and chickens, significant xenoestrogen, acts like estrogen. A lot of our body care products are plasticizers, phthalates in plastic. So, Carmen and I were talking about this today. The coffee maker that I bought not too long ago has no phthalates in it at all. So when I run coffee through it, I'm not getting that in my coffee. But anytime
I never even thought of that.
What
Yeah.
kind of coffee maker is
Thank
it?
you, Paul.
I know. Didn't mean to ruin your
That's
day.
just
Best coffee maker
Yeah,
you
now-
have,
now
so
I
can
need to
get on
know.
that?
Yeah, it was more than what I should have paid for it. Let's put it that way.
Oh.
Yeah, way
I
more.
got a stingy husband.
Okay.
Not
Probably
my $20 Mr. Coffee.
Right,
No,
yeah,
it wasn't a
exactly.
Mr. Coffee.
Dang.
No, it wasn't that. So a lot of our, so we want to avoid things that are obvious estrogenic type things in our body. So like, here's a good one. Don't microwave in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real obvious thing not to do. That's bad. That's really bad. Like not eating microwave popcorn. Drinking out of regular good coffee cups rather than styrofoam cups. Sometimes we can't avoid it. I know it, but that's another thing you can do. Using more natural soaps and shampoos are really good. Not eating a lot of soy and soy protein isolate. Now, in our house, we're not perfect in this area. Like I get organic heavy whipping cream for my coffee, but we don't get perfect chicken and perfect beef every time we buy and perfect meat. We try, but we don't always do it, and it just, in our culture, it's pretty hard to do it
It's
to be
hard.
totally pure, okay?
And our government makes it difficult.
Yeah, exactly.
They really do. Because, well, you get eggs from my son and his wife, and we butcher chickens every year too. But there's so much that he would have to go through to get those to be declared organic that it's just not even worth the price.
Yeah, it is. And yet their stuff probably is organic, isn't it?
It is for the most part. They get the chickens get antibiotics if they're sick, or they'll die.
Yeah.
And they've lost their investment if they have to keep buying chickens, because they always have something, but they're not loaded with. They're not treated every single week like commercial chickens
Exactly.
are. They just get it regardless. They only
Oh,
get
I
it if
didn't
they're
know that.
ill. Yes. And beef, that's why I get my beef from Heather,
Mm-hmm.
because they get antibiotics if they need it, but they don't farm their cows out to the feedlots in the winter, so consequently most of the time they don't
Right. And
I
so,
didn't know that commercially they were giving it to them on a
Yeah.
regular
oh
basis.
yeah.
automatically.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
They'll just give it
Okay.
to them whether they need it or
Yeah.
not.
Oh
Yeah.
shoot.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of that, and not only that, but then you've got the pesticides and insecticide residue on grain that gets into the meat. It's just it's a
The
problem.
stuff they're eating.
So we try and I just had somebody get me a deer, and so that's a lot better than
Mhm.
feedlot meat, and so.
Yes.
So yeah, so there's ways to get around this, but the fact is we live in this culture. It's pretty hard for the average family to eat pure all the time. So you do the best you can.
But you can make choices.
Yeah. Yes.
Probably silly and self-explanatory, but because I drink like 6 bottled waters a day, is that also the plastic in the bottled waters that is?
Yes.
Mhm.
I wouldn't do that. Okay.
You're a patient here. You can get water.
Yeah. You could.
I haven't had that discussion with him yet.
You could get water and use a glass container to drink out of.
Like dump it out of the bottle, or what do you mean?
No,
I don't drink the tap
just-
water because
I wouldn't get bottled water ever.
Oh,
I just wouldn't get it. Okay. So either get like a filter at home, or you can use mine.
okay.
Kangaroo water, it's pretty good.
Okay, here's some other things. Dryer sheets are loaded with estrogen. Birth control pills have a lot of estrogen. Canned food linings contain BPA, which is estrogenic.
God, well, I don't use that. But dryer sheets.
Why?
Hey.
Why?
Don't shoot the messenger.
Well,
I use wool dryer.
So there's so many.
not
we're
dryer
just
sheets.
exposed to so much toxicity in our culture,
Oh,
and
crap down.
we just need to try and get rid of the obvious stuff. Okay. So here's an article, December 18 article in a journal called Human Reproduction, which I think I was still doing my radio show at that time. But I think I covered this article on my radio show. Girls exposed to chemicals found in shampoo, toothpaste, and soap may hit puberty earlier, even if they're only exposures to the products their mother used while they were pregnant. This is troubling news because scientists have linked the early onset of puberty with great risk of mental illness, breast and ovarian cancer, and testicular cancer in boys. So I quit using toothpaste a long time ago.
We use baking soda.
Baking soda, yeah. Hormone imbalance can begin from eating, look at the things people eat. Pasta, ice cream, pizza, French fries, all of this stuff is not.
I'm so glad I came.
Yeah, I know. I'm the bearer of good news.
Everyone's gonna leave here all depressed.
Yeah, I
Depressed
know.
from eating.
So, how do we treat hormone imbalances? Okay, so we need to treat the whole body. So,
Ouch.
measuring female hormones without addressing the underlying cause is not going to work. That's why I don't do this very much anymore. I used to. So, healing the adrenals, you got to do that. Addressing diet, that's huge. Checking insulin levels is a big deal. So these two we want to do. Exercise regularly and balance the adrenal hormones using specific adrenal formulas and herbs. This is where I would start, okay? If I had a really, really tough case that I couldn't figure out, then I would do a female hormone panel, which takes, by the way, 30 days because you spit in a tube every other day and it gives you the estrogen, progesterone curves, and you can learn a lot from that. But there's a lot of things you can do without doing that, and that's an expensive test. Like the standard process purification diet will actually, I put women through this, and man, their hormones just snapped into shape. Like, it's amazing how well this works for that. So, let's see. Okay, these are relevant tests that you can do. Fasting insulin, adrenal hormones, food intolerance testing to look at dietary stress. Hair analysis Hair analysis is really good because you can look at minerals, adrenal function, and sugar metabolism just from hair. A cycling female hormone panel, that's what I was just talking about. That's my last resort to do something like that. Great test, but it's expensive and it takes a while to even do the test. I think there's other ways to straighten that out. So, good. We're a little past. Anybody have any questions? So, if somebody came up to you and they said, man, my 15-year-old daughter's really having some hormonal issues. I don't know what I'm going to do. She has such painful, long periods. What is the first question you would ask that woman?
What's she eating?
What's her diet like? Tell me what she's eating. What does she eat on a regular basis? Great question. Bingo. You got that one, Natalie. What other question?
I've been here a few times.
What?
I've been here a few times.
Yeah. What other question might you ask her?
Habits? I mean, I guess.
You're getting warm. You're warm.
What?
How about how much stress is she under?
Oh, yeah.
What's your stress level?
Stress level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you eating? What's your stress level?
Yeah. What's another question you could ask her? Really, really relevant question too. Something that.
Oh, is she on birth
You could
control,
ask
or
her
has
that.
she been on?
Or how about how much sleep is she getting?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager,
Not
I'd
very much.
stay up late, and you know, it took me a while to figure that out. So yeah, those are three.
Those are some simple questions that I just expected it to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, no, it's not complicated, because those questions cover insulin and cortisol basically. You know, and sleep. You know, sleep's really you know, not getting enough sleep is really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the three questions I would ask. You know, and you know, if they're eating, you know, Coke and pizza and macaroni and cheese most of the time, and they're, you know, burning the candle at both ends, and they're under stress because they're not getting good grades, I mean, there you go. There you have it right there. So, yeah, so what I'm trying to turn you guys into is not doctors, but like you can at least help somebody navigate their kid through this process, you know? So, good. That's all I have for today. And if you probably know some people who have girls that are having these issues. If they can't get through them changing their diet, you know, bring them in and we'll check them. And I've worked on girls like that before. I had one young lady who was 20. She'd been in a car accident. All I did was chiropractic on her for 3 months. And after 3 months, one day she said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, yeah, you can ask me. She says, "You know, I used to have irregular cycles and all kinds of problems with my cycles." And she says, "Since I was in this car accident and I've come in regularly," she says, "they've straightened out and they're fine. And is there any connection between that?" I said, "Yeah, there might be."
That's awesome.
There might be a connection. Okay. So yeah, so you guys can help your friends out, and you got the notes, and so you can show them the notes, and if they have any other issues that are a little bit more complex, they can come in here and I'll be happy to talk to them. So in 2 weeks, we're having the non-therapy of many medical therapies or procedures, which I got from all the journal articles I read, and we're going to talk about some things that are done every day in orthopedic offices and medical offices that have no scientific basis behind them. So that'll be an interesting class for you. Good. Any other questions? Certainly, Adam, you must have a question on female hormones.
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Great.
Tupperware advertises that they don't have any of that chemical.
Phthalates?
Yeah.
Good.
That it's the only plastic on the market that doesn't.
That's a big selling point for me.
That you
They
can
don't
actually.
have the BPA and
The
phthalates
phthalates. Thank
Yeah.
you. Tupperware. It's
Yeah.
the only.
I'm so bad about microwaving food in my Tupperware.
When it comes to storing food, my thing is, we have these glass containers with the plastic lids, and you know I like that. I mean, I know the plastic isn't so good, but the glass containers, they're not getting, you know, we're not storing it in plastic really, and I prefer that over anything. But I didn't know that about Tupperware. That's good. It's good news. Good. Okay.
But everything's called Tupperware.
The Tupperware brand.
It's not. Yeah, the
Brand
actual
name.
Tupperware brand does not have the bad chemicals.
Oh, that's good to know. That's really good. I didn't know that. Okay. Great. Thank you very much for being here tonight.